Today's story is about a man named Armin Meiwes. Now, this guy spent his whole adult life in Wüstefeld, which is a small farming village in Germany. I'm not a German, so probably some of my pronunciations might not be right. Please pardon me for that. Armin lived in this huge mansion with 44 rooms, and the people in the village called that house the Keller House, right? I'll be using that word, the Keller House, throughout the entire story, so you know that once I mention it, I am referring to that 44-room apartment. But that is not the main point of today's story. You see, since Armin was a teenager, he was hiding a very disturbing secret. He had this deep desire that was inside of him that he couldn't share with anybody. And what was that desire? He wanted to kill another man and eat his flesh. Not because he just wanted to kill, but in his mind, he believed that if he ate someone, that person would somehow become a part of him and would never be able to escape. The person could be talking with him in his mind, and they could be friends forever. This strange way of thinking started a long time ago when his father walked out and left the family. Armin was only 8 years old by then. As he was growing up, he used to sit and watch the local farmers as they were slaughtering pigs and cows. He even created an imaginary friend for himself in his mind named Frankie. Many times, Armin would think about eating Frankie just so he could stay inside of him, so that he could take all of his strength into himself. All this time, he was living with his mother, Waltraud. This woman was very strict. You know how mothers are. She controlled everything Armin did, who he saw, where he went, and even his daily choices. She controlled everything. In fact, Armin depended on his mother for every little thing. But then, on the 2nd of September, 1999, Waltraud passed away. Armin was now 37 years old, and for the first time in his life, he was all alone in that mansion. Just a few weeks after his mother died, Armin went on the internet. He found some websites where people talk and, they arrange strange and extreme fetishes like dangerous sex, genital mutilations, staged robberies, and the like. He loved the websites, so he created an account and started posting using the name Frankie, the same name he gave to his imaginary friend. In his messages, he was asking for a well-built man between 18 and 30 years old to come to his house so he could slaughter them and eat them. Over the next few months, this man posted more than 60 of these messages. And surprisingly, some men actually replied and said they were interested. But when the time came, every single one of them got scared and chickened out. Then in June of 2000, a man named Jog Bews answered the ad. Jog was a hotel cook, but he didn't contact Armin because he wanted to be slaughtered. He actually had those same thoughts about butchering people too. he also wanted to eat people. So the two of them met twice to talk. During their second meeting, Armin took Jörg up to the attic of the Keller house to show him something. And what was he going to show him? Well, Armin had taken an old room that was used for smoking meat and turned this room into a slaughterhouse. He covered the walls with mattresses so that no sound could ever go out. And in the middle of that room, there was a metal bed frame, a folding table, and some small cabinets. He even had a metal hook for hanging meat swinging from the ceiling. The room was filled with all kinds of tools, a hatchet, different kinds of whips, knives in different sizes, rubber mannequins, and even air fresheners to hide any smell. Armin had actually built this whole setup for a man who had agreed to be slaughtered some time ago. But that person had changed his mind. So when Jörg stood there and looked at the room, he realized that this wasn't a joke. The plan was very real. And he didn't wait for a second. He just turned and ran out of that house immediately. Now fast forward to 2002, Armin arranged to meet a lot of men. About 30 or 40 of them actually agreed to come. He would go to the train station to pick them up and bring them back to his house. Now, you should know that most of these men were well educated. They were professionals with good careers and high-paying jobs. So wanting to be slaughtered like that is not an easy thing. And you can imagine the kind of problems they were going through. As soon as these men walked up to that attic and saw the knives on the table and the hook hanging on the ceiling, they immediately came back to their senses and asked to leave. Armin didn't try to stop them or force anybody. He told every person that he only wanted someone who was truly willing to go through with it. Then another man saw the advertisements and replied. This man was Bernd Jürgen Armando Brandes. He was 43 years old and worked as a microchip engineer at Siemens in Berlin. Brandes grew up as an only child. His mother was a doctor, but she died in a car accident in 1963. The police later found out that she actually crashed the car on purpose to kill herself because she made a medical mistake that cost a patient their life and didn't want to face jail time. But Brandes never knew the truth about why his mother died. And after his mother died, his father also didn't really have time for him. He hired nannies to raise the boy. Then he got married again and pushed Brandes away. So by 1990, his father had completely stopped talking to him. Brandes even got engaged to a woman at one point, but that relationship ended because of an affair. From 1995 onwards, he was just moving from place to place, sleeping with many women, and even paying male sex workers to sleep with him. He also started asking for very extreme pleasures during these times. He would ask these sex workers to bite him very hard at sensitive places. He even asked one worker to use a knife to cut off what his daddy gave him. You know what I mean, right? To cut off that thing down there. But that worker refused. And he left. I mean, that was crazy. You ask someone to cut off your manhood just like that? Well, that is Brandes for you, because he had been looking for someone to do this to him for so long. In 1998, he got tired of dating women, so he started a relationship with a man named Rene. They even lived together in the same apartment in Berlin, right? On the 5th of February 2001, Brandes read Armin's message and sent a reply showing interest. Now, the shocking part is that Brandes didn't even care that much about being eaten. His main wish, his biggest desire, was to have his manhood cut off. He just wanted someone to remove it for him so that he could experience how it feels like to be castrated. He felt that getting killed and eaten afterward was just like the reasonable way to handle the situation so that he wouldn't have to stay alive and live without a stick. All right. So Armin read the reply and agreed to the terms. For the next month, the two of them were sending emails to each other almost every day. They sat down and planned everything out, which tools they would use to cut the penis off and how the killing would actually happen. In the next few days, Brandes started putting his things in order. He sold his car and kept the cash for whatever reason. He even went to his computers and deleted every single file on his hard drives so that no one would find anything. He even deleted all the messages with Armin. Then Brandes went to his bosses and told them that he was going for a hair transplant, so they should give him some time off work. Before he left his home, he sat down and wrote a note by hand. In that note, he said he was leaving all his money and everything he owned to his boyfriend. He didn't give it to him directly though. Instead, he hid the paper inside a cabinet where it will be found later. On the morning of March 9th, Brandes woke up very early. He got dressed and he walked out quietly without eating any breakfast or even waking Rene up. He went straight to the station and took a train to Rothenburg and Fulda. I think that's a town there. I can't really mention the name. Armin was already there waiting for him. He picked him up at 20 minutes to 11 that morning. And when they were in the car, Armin suggested that they should spend a few days at the house first and just to get to know each other well before they get to work. But Brandes refused. He was so excited about the adventure, so he told Armin that they needed to do the slaughter today. No need for introduction, no need to spend some time together. So Armin agreed and they drove back to Wüstefeld. When they got to the Keller house, they went inside and sat on a mattress for a few hours, just talking and, kissing. While they were together, Armin brought out all the things he had prepared for the job. He laid out 6 different knives, a hatchet, and an electric machine for grinding meat. He had even gone to the internet to print out a paper that explained step by step how to butcher human beings. He had even translated the English on that paper into German so he could follow it perfectly. Then he set up a video camera in the corner of the room and started recording everything. They moved to the first part of their plan. Armin leaned down and tried to use his own teeth to bite off Brandes' bolo bolo. Okay. But it didn't work. Seems it was too difficult to bite off. So Brandes started bleeding profusely and the pain was too much for him to bear. And at that moment, he started to panic and told Armin to stop because he didn't think that Armin was capable of doing the work cleanly or properly. So he asked to cancel the whole arrangement. Armin didn't argue with him. He just agreed to let him go. So he drove Brandes back to the station And Brandes even went to the counter and bought a ticket to go back home. But while they were standing there at the station, Brandes changed his mind again. He told Armin he wanted to go back and finish what they had started. So they got back into the car, and on their way to the house, they stopped at a local pharmacy. Armin went inside and bought a box of 20 sleeping pills and a bottle of cough syrup. When they finally got back to the mansion, Brandes swallowed more than half of those pills and drank a lot of that cough syrup. To make it even stronger, he drank half a bottle of schnapps just to calm his heart. The mixture of the medicine and the alcohol hit his system very hard. He even started seeing ghosts and monsters all around. He told Armin that he could see lions and tigers moving across the walls, so he was scared, but Armin just calmed him down and said he was hallucinating. Then in the evening, Armin tried to remove the bolo for a second time. He took a regular kitchen knife and tried to cut through the flesh, but the blade was not sharp for the job. He had to go back to the table to find a sharper knife, and that's when he was able to finally cut off that stubborn root. Now, even though Brandes was very drunk from the medicine and the alcohol, he was still awake, so he cried out loud when the thing was cut off. But then he looked at Armin and told him something very crazy. He told him that he was very disappointed. One of the reasons he wanted it cut was because of the experience. But when it was done, he felt the pain wasn't even as strong as he had imagined it would be. So he was so disappointed. Armin took some bandages, wrapped up the wound to try and manage the blood loss. And after that, Brandes told him to go and fry the sausage so they can eat together. When I say sausage, I'm referring to what was cut. So Armin picked up the sausage and walked down to the kitchen. He put a frying pan on the fire, added a little oil, dropped the sausage inside, and added salt, pepper, garlic, ginger, and other spices to give it some taste. He even went back upstairs to cut some fat from Brandes' own body and put it in the pan to fry the meat even more. But he left it on the stove for too long, and the meat got burnt until nobody could eat it. Armin still brought the burnt sausage back to the room anyways, but by then, Brandes had lost so much blood and was incapacitated by the pills that he couldn't even take a single bite. Then Brandes just looked at the burnt sausage. So is that my own sausage? Then he looked up at Armin and said to him, "Oh, my brother, if I don't die before morning, don't worry. We can still fry my balls for breakfast. One for me, one for you." And this is not an exaggeration. That is exactly what he told Armin. Armin looked at him and smiled. After that, he went into the bathroom and filled the tub with warm water. Then he helped Brandes take off his clothes and lowered him into the bath. But you see, the warm water made things worse. It stopped the blood from clotting and from closing the wound. So Brandes just started bleeding out even faster. In all of that, Armin didn't stay there with him. He went into the next room, sat in a chair, and started reading one of those Star Trek storybooks. Every 15 minutes, he would go to the bathroom and check on Brandes. For 2 hours, 2 hours, Brandes stayed in that water, drifting in and out of sleep and screaming anytime the pain hit him hard. Sometime after midnight, Brandes managed to climb out of that bloody water and walked all the way up to the stairs to the slaughter room. He lay down on the bed to rest, and between 3 and 4 in the morning, he woke up and tried to stand on his feet. He told Armin he wanted to go to the bathroom to urinate, but Armin looked at him and reminded him that he doesn't have what it takes to do that anymore. Brandes didn't listen. He just pushed him away and tried to stand on his feet. But immediately he did that, his blood pressure dropped and he just collapsed onto the floor. When Armin looked at him lying there, he believed the man was finally dead. So he lifted Brandes up, put him on the folding table, tied his arms and legs. But as he was standing over him, he noticed that Brandes' chest was still moving. He was actually still taking very light breaths. So Armin stood there very still for a moment, thinking about what to do. Then he leaned down, kissed Brandes on the face, and said a short prayer for him. Then he took a knife and drove it straight into his throat. He pulled the knife out and cut off Brandes' head. He lifted the whole body and hooked it onto that hook hanging from the ceiling so that the blood remaining inside of the body can drain out. Armin then opened that guide and followed the steps one by one to cut the body into different parts. He even took the smaller bones and put them through the meat grinder. And when he was finished with all the cutting, he put the pieces of meat into plastic bags and carried them down to the freezer and hid them at the very bottom, burying them under several boxes of pizza. He went back to the attic and turned off the camera. The whole thing, from the very first bite until those final cuts, was 4 hours long. Over the next 10 months, Armin would take the bags out of the freezer one by one, then fry it with olive oil and garlic, and black pepper, ginger. He served it with potatoes and, those cabbages and those kind of things. He would even pour himself a glass of wine to wash everything down smoothly. In total, he ate 20 kilograms of that flesh. He really treated these meals with a lot of respect, like he was taking a communion in church. He believed that every time he swallowed a piece, he was keeping Brandes' memories alive inside his own body. Now, on the 12th of March 2001, which was just 3 days after Brandes had left his apartment, his boyfriend Renee went to the police station. He told them that Brandes was missing and they should help find him. The police took the information, but because Brandes was a grown man and the law says that an adult can decide to just walk away from any relationship and start a new life if they want to, and because the police had no proof that any crime had happened, they just stopped the investigation. Then in June of 2001, Jock Buse, the cook from the hotel, sent Armin photos of people he worked with and told Armin that he could bring them to the house to be eaten. But Armin refused the offer. He told Jock that he would only kill someone who specifically asked for it and gave their full permission. So about 16 months after killing Brandes, a 23-year-old university student in Austria named Thomas was sitting at his computer. He was just browsing the internet and he typed the words horror and nervous thrills into the search engine. That search took him straight to one of those advertisements that Armin was still posting. Thomas found the email address and sent a message to Armin and asked him, "Have you actually killed anyone?" Armin didn't try to hide anything. He replied, "Yes," and typed out all the dark details of what he had done to Brandes. When Thomas read that email, he felt sick to the stomach. He didn't tell anyone about it at first. But 3.5 months later, in the middle of October, Thomas finally went to the police in Austria. He gave them the email address and told them he suspected a real murder had taken place. The Austrian authorities sent all the information to the German Federal Police, and it took them about 2 months to trace that email back directly to Armin Meiwes. On the morning of 10th of December 2002, police officers drove to the Keller house with a search warrant. They climbed the stairs and found the slaughter room in the attic. Then they went down to the kitchen and opened the freezer. They moved the frozen pizza boxes aside and pulled out 3 plastic bags filled with meat. The officers looked at the frozen blocks and they couldn't tell just by looking if it was human flesh or animal meat. That afternoon, the police brought Armin to the station and questioned him for 3 good hours. He admitted that he had been talking to the Austrian student online. The officers asked if he had killed anyone, as he told the student. Armin told the officers he would definitely kill someone if they asked him to do it. But he refused to say anything about the meat they found in the freezer. And because the police couldn't prove right there and then that the meat was human, they didn't have enough evidence to keep him at the station. They could only charge him with a small offense for disturbing the dead and, let him walk out of the front door. Armin walked out of the station, found a payphone on the street, and dialed his lawyer's number. He told him everything he had done to Brandes. His lawyer listened to the whole story and told Armin to just turn around and surrender because there is no hope for him to survive this. Armin hung up the phone, called the police from that very same payphone, and confessed to the murder. He walked back inside the station and turned himself in. The next morning, he led the police to the Keller house and showed them where his secrets were buried. The officers started digging and pulled out a human skull, 2 hands, 2 feet, and many bones that had been completely stripped of their meat. While they were all standing there in the yard, Armin unbuckled a wristwatch from his own arm and handed it over to the police. That watch actually belonged to Brandes, and Armin had been wearing it every single day since the day he killed him. Inside the mansion, the police found the video camera and watched the whole 4-hour recording. The video gave the police all the proof they needed of what happened in that attic. It showed clearly that Brandes was the one who asked for his body to be cut. He was the one who swallowed all those pills by himself, and he had given his full agreement to everything Armin did to him. At first, the court didn't call it murder. They gave Armin a lesser charge for manslaughter because of how the 2 men had agreed on the plan. So the judge sentenced him to 8.5 years in prison. But the prosecutors were not happy with that decision at all. They felt the punishment was too small, so they appealed to a higher court to have the case tried again. 2 years later, in 2006, they held a second trial. This time, the court looked at the situation differently. They decided that at the exact moment that Brandes died, he was so intoxicated and so heavily drugged that he wasn't in his right mind to give legal permission for someone to kill him. Maybe he could have just said no, he wasn't in for the killing. But Armin just slit the knife through his throat and cut off his head. And because of that, they charged him to life imprisonment. And that, my friends, is the end of today's story. It may sound absurd. I was also shocked when I came across this story, and I felt like researching and telling you the story so that not because I want you to also go and experience how it feels to be castrated, but for you to just understand that there are people who can do anything, even the craziest thing, to satisfy their desires. And that can include killing you wherever you are now. So be very careful of your environment. See you in the next.